Hello and welcome. The title of this video is Breaking the Spell of Authority and Preparing Our Children for the Future. In my opinion, one of the biggest problems in the world today is that most people have been brainwashed since birth into giving their power and responsibility away to authority. In doing so, they have become totally dependent on the state. Also, most never question the system. Make no mistake, this is by design. The system we are born into is like a farm designed to exploit the many for the benefit of the few. People are merely registered livestock, farmed for profit. Blind obedience to authority is not only dangerous, it's ugly. Many Britons get excited whenever there is a royal wedding or a royal birth. They support the idea of royalty. To my mind, this is a form of racism. Racists believe that certain people are inferior. Royalists believe that certain people are superior. Both mindsets are mind-numbing, infantile, and ignorant. Most never realized that authority became authority through a history of extreme violence and used the threat of violence or incarceration to maintain their power and control. You see, the state always has a gun to your head. If you don't do what they say or follow their rules or pay them money in the form of taxes, you will be imprisoned. In short, governments are equivalent to gangsters. They extort money and demand compliance with the threat of violence or imprisonment. Through propaganda and education, most have learned to love their enslavement and would fight to defend it. Most feel a sense of national pride and a sense of national duty. In a situation of war, young men join the military and are given some training and sent to another country to murder their inhabitants, as if this is the only correct and righteous thing to do. It's sheer madness. To my mind, there is absolutely nothing glorious about murdering or dying for your king or country, and blindly obeying orders is quite simply a crime. You may disagree with me when I say that Hitler is not guilty of crimes against humanity. The people who obeyed him through the chain of command and carried out his orders bear the burden of guilt. Blind obedience to authority by individuals has resulted in tens of millions of deaths during the last century. Clearly, authority is extremely dangerous. In fact, it is the biggest threat to the survival of the human species. In order to survive as a species, we must break the spell we have been put under by the dark magicians in power. Realize authority is an illusion. It doesn't exist. We are all equal, regardless of race, gender, or wealth. Each human is an independent sovereign being. There is only one universal law, which consists of 3 words in the following order: do no harm. No one has power over another human being. No one has the right to tell anyone else what to do or how to live. It doesn't matter what uniform or what title a person may wear, they have absolutely no power over you, unless you give it to them. And unfortunately, most have been brainwashed to give it to them. Voting is giving away your power. Well, it's time to take it back. To see the farm is to leave the farm. You are free. So, How are beautiful, powerful, and independent sovereign spirits conditioned to obey authority in the first place? Well, it begins with state education. The purpose of the education system has virtually nothing to do with education and everything to do with preparing humans for a lifetime of work, debt, and corporate slavery. The first authority figure in a child's life is the teacher. The teacher represents the will of the state. The teacher demands obedience. Obedience is rewarded, and disobedience is punished. The child must do what the teacher asks. The teacher tells them what to do and when to do it. Children must ask permission to use the toilet. The school is little better than a day prison for children. And forcing children against their will to attend school is basically child abuse and a violation of basic human rights and universal law. The human spirit is strong. That's why it takes years and years of schooling and, in some cases, medication to break people into accepting a dull, dreary life of corporate debt slavery. I would like to point out that I think most teachers and parents are good and decent people who really do care about education and the welfare of their children. It is the system and method that I am attacking, not the individuals who are involved in it. After all, they are victims of the system too. Early on in school, children are conditioned without realizing it to accepting information from authority as the truth. In other words, they subconsciously believe that truth comes from authority. Later they will accept the state's version of current events fed to them on the news broadcasts as the truth. Thus, people are being constantly manipulated and conditioned through brainwashing and propaganda. People won't believe anything to be true or factual unless it is presented to them by authority figures on mainstream media. I have a deep personal resentment towards the education system because years of my life were stolen from me by the state, years which I can never get back. This will shock some, but our purpose on this planet is not to get a good education and get a good job. Our purpose in this life is solely for the individual to determine, not the state.